Hey guys, Savannah here from Mint Ops. Thank you for attending. I know it's kind of getting late in the day for a lot of people, but we're here to talk about some really important things this afternoon. Kind of what's going on in the industry right now. We're going to be talking about hiring and what happens when we hire. What are the ways we can keep our teams happy, successful, and long-term? We all know the cost is and the stress is just exhausting. So it makes me want to drink. So a lot of times I will be having a drink when I'm thinking about staffing. But before we start, just a couple housekeeping notes. So just so everyone knows, we are recording the session. It'll be available for you to review at the end of the webinar. You'll be able to share this recording with friends, colleagues, if it's something that's interesting, or if there's a piece you want to go back and watch again, it will be available. If you guys have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A section. It's on the left-hand side for you. We have a moderator that is behind the scenes that will curate any questions. So if anything pops up, pop it in the chat. We definitely will answer it. Alternatively, we'll answer questions at the end too. So if there's something you want to wait for or have a discussion about, we'll definitely do that as well. If there's not enough time, we'll email you an answer. Okay. If you're connected through your mobile phone, you are able to switch between the shared screen and the webcam via swipe right, swipe left. Okay. And last note, we would like to make this webinar as interactive as possible. So we always encourage your guys' questions. Ask anything you want. Honestly, there's no bad question out there. There's so much going on in the industry right now. We just want to address it and make sure that we get you guys the information that you're looking for. The more questions, the better. Okay. So I'm going to introduce Dani. She is part of our team. Dani has had multiple hats in dentistry. She started as a clinician. She worked as an administrator for a little while. Then she became an office manager. Then she became a business manager. And now she supports our team at Mint Ops. She does recruitment with us as well as she is our director of practice strategy. So I'm excited to have her here today. I'm sure she wants to say hi and get going. So I'll let her do that and then we'll move on.
Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction, Savannah. I am looking forward to, talking to you guys about staffing and the, challenges that we're all facing. I've been in the industry for about 15 years, so I understand firsthand, how much goes on behind the scenes just to keep a clinic running nice and smoothly.
Okay, well, on that note, let's dive right into it. So we're going to talk about, first of all, the challenges of hiring. So right now, hiring is definitely one of the hardest pieces of dentistry. I know for a fact it is the #1 reason that dentists sell their practices. They just get really tired of the staffing train and hiring and retaining and managing and crying and just different stresses, right? So right now, dentistry, I would say it's amplified compared to other industries. It still is a women-dominated profession, so we feel it more. We're going to talk about solutions for systematic hiring processes. So I want to make sure that one thing you guys take away today is just a few tips and tricks to make it smoother when you hire somebody. We do find in dental, we miss this a lot. It's not organized. It just becomes, okay, cool, you're an RDH. Come on in, let's go, right? And that's not the way it should be. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some strategies for onboarding and team satisfaction. Onboarding is, again, a big thing that clinics miss. I see it with 90% of the clinics I work with. Dani talks to clinics all the time. She's also aware this is something that often doesn't get done. For those of you that are doing it, I'm proud of you. And, we'll give you some tips and some ideas of things that you can do differently. And then we're going to talk about some systematic approaches for HR success. HR is a tricky one in dental. A lot of us don't have degrees in it. So we're kind of winging it as we go. It's different from province to province. It's different from city to city. It's different all across the country, but we'll give you some ideas on how to systemize it, make it easier for your practice. And then we're going to talk about some ideas for growth and longevity for your dental team. So, hiring is great. We can find the perfect person, but if we don't keep them, it's tough, right? So we're going to talk about why hiring is a challenge. We know it is hard. There is no question about it. It's hard in every industry right now. Honestly, I talk to friends that own restaurants. I talk to friends that are in oil and gas. I talk to friends that own medical clinics. It's the exact same thing. It's just a challenge in general right now for skilled workers. But specifically in dentistry, we just have less population. There's less people in Canada than there is in most countries in the world. We are massively spread out. We have less people, and there's just less people in the workforce right now. People are big into YouTube. They're into TikTok. They're trying to make money online. They're not going into traditional careers like they used to. So we're just seeing less people working in general. People are looking for work-life balance. So I know back when I started in dentistry, way before Dani, I don't want to date how old I am, but we all worked crazy hours. Like I graduated, it was like I worked 6 days a week. I was working 10 hours a day. It was just normal. It was like, I need to pay off my loans. I need to make sure that I'm not starving. I need to make sure that I, pay for everything. I want a vacation. I want this. I want that. So I was working crazy hours. People don't do that anymore. Every associate we interview wants 4 days a week. Every hygienist wants 4 days a week. Assistants, maybe 5. Admin, 4 to 5. It depends on the position, but we're finding people want that work-life balance, which is awesome. Very good for mental health, very good for burnout. But what we're finding is it makes it really, really hard when it comes to hiring because it's just less people. People are working less hours, so we need more people. Hour shift in dentistry. When I started, dental used to be a 9 to 5 profession. We worked bankers hours, 10 to 5, 9 to 5. Nobody worked an evening. Nobody worked a weekend. If you guys are in Winnipeg, you're really lucky because a lot of people don't work evenings and weekends there, but it's changing. We're seeing the shift across the country, even on the East Coast, like Dani and I were talking about it the other day. And, we're seeing more clinics opening extended hours, trying to accommodate patients, trying to make it work for people. So it makes it hard. Childcare is a thing. I know this. If you pick up your child 2 minutes late, they charge you by the minute. So people can't necessarily work evenings and weekends, and that's challenging when it's a second income, right? So we see that. There's really no solution for that unless you open a daycare, which I did. I opened a daycare for my own staff because I needed them to not have that challenge when they were working, right? Dentistry, DAs especially, we know it's not necessarily a lifetime career. It's physically very demanding. Being a hygienist, you get burnt out, your body hurts, you work part-time, especially when people have families, they're not working as much as they used to. It's just a physically and mentally demanding profession. So we find it's not necessarily a lifetime career. There's so many options for people in dentistry. It's easy to go into sales. It's easy to go into admin. It's easy to go into something a little bit different. So we don't see a lot of, I'm not picking on assistants right now, but I am. We don't see a lot of 60-year-old dental assistants anymore. When I started, that was common. People did it for life. It's not a thing anymore. We do see the odd one, and I love them. I just love them. Like I get excited when I see someone who's still in love with dentistry at that point, but it's not common anymore. Women dominated, still a thing for us. A lot of part-time employees, that obviously gives us shortages. It makes hiring a little bit harder. The thing we're going to touch on today and talk about and try to give you guys some tips, some tricks is training and education. There's not enough available for people. We find nobody trains anybody in dental offices. It's very rare. What you guys think training is and what I think training is are two very different things. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, education. There's not enough available in dentistry. I work doing many different nonprofits and things in the industry to try to help. I do some dentistry overseas, but I sit on the board and the committee of the Dental Office Managers Association of Canada. And we talk about it all the time. And one of our goals is to get more education for admin, for managers. There's just nothing out there that helps us, right? So that makes it a challenge. Clinics are opening, more and more opening. There's more investor dentists out there. More extended hours means we need more people. Before, when it was, we didn't have as many foreign trained dentists coming in, not that it's a bad thing, but we just didn't have as many coming in. There were less jobs. So people were more likely to stay in their positions. They weren't moving around as much. There weren't extended hours. They weren't as many clinics available, right? So it was a little bit different back then. These aren't bad things by any stretch for the profession. It gives patients more options. It opens up a lot of doors, but in the world of HR, hiring and maintaining, it definitely has made it more challenging for us. So it's just some of those things. So we're going to talk about, we find that perfect hire. Well, what do we do? Right? What do we do? We can hire anybody. I mean, I caution everybody to definitely screen their people a little bit, but you know, at the same time, we find that perfect person. Well, how are we going to get them to stay? What are we going to do? So the number one thing I'm going to tell you guys that dental clinics miss is onboarding, right? It is the most common miss in dentistry. And I know this because clinics don't have time. We're always short staffed. We don't make it a priority. I understand. But I'll tell you guys something. You go work at Starbucks, okay? You take a job right now. You do not make a coffee for 3 entire months. You know why? Because they train you. They want to make sure you know how to use it, all the equipment. They want to make sure you don't burn yourself. They want to make sure that their customers are happy. They want to make sure that you're happy. They want to make sure you understand all the logistics of the position. We don't do that. Sure, we certify our people, some of our people, right? But just because you go to dental assisting school doesn't mean you're prepared for the job when you come out, right? And it doesn't mean because you've worked in one clinic, you know how another clinic works. So I'm going to let Dani talk a little bit about this. I know she has a lot of experience in onboarding different team members in different types of offices and getting teams on board. So I'm going to let her talk about just kind of some of the things that should happen when we hire those people. When do we send a job offer? What do we do? What should be those expectations?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Savannah. So yeah, the most important thing obviously is, you know, within the onboarding process, you want to make sure that, you know, you do this interview. Every interview should typically last anywhere for 30 to 60 minutes. That gives you enough time to go over all the important details, really get a feel for the candidate, as well as give enough time to chat about the role itself. You know, best part about that too is understanding, you know, their experience, what they're looking for. Does this align with what you're able to offer them as well? And then another big thing are reference checks, making sure that the candidates are providing at least 2 to 3 professional references, not just a friend of theirs or somebody they went to high school with, or maybe even somebody like outside the industry is okay too. But ideally you want a dental professional referral or reference check, sorry. And then right away, you know, if everything lines up, you should be getting the offer to the candidate as soon as possible. Try to keep this within a week amount of time. And that way, you know, they're not accepting positions elsewhere. They're not waiting to hear from you. You also, you know, are not coming across as kind of dilly-dallying, a little unorganized. You want things to be moving in a really efficient manner. So when you're presenting them with the onboarding and the offer, you want to make sure that the job description and what their duties are very, very well detailed. Make sure that there is an employee contract available and they sign. The contract's not only just for them, but it's also for yourself, the clinic as well. It protects you, you know, within their 3-month probationary period and things like that. Make sure that the wage is agreed upon before they start, and it is also clear in writing. And then training checklists. If you guys don't have a training checklist, you know, it's really encouraged that that is developed and you can oversee it yourself or, you know, a lead from your department, but making sure that these checklists are reviewed after every single day, and it will just help with the whole onboarding process, as well as making sure that everyone's feeling really prepared for when this new employee comes on board.
Dani, how long is the training checklist in one of our clinics?
Like 2 pages, 3 pages.
Minimum, right? Minimum. So I just want everyone to be aware, this is not like 4 or 5 things. It should be everything from start to finish when they start in your clinic. So how did they get an office tour? Do they know where the lunchroom is? Do they know where to put their things? I know it sounds funny, but that stresses people out, and I don't blame them, right? How to log onto the system? Do they know how to protect themselves with a new password? Do they know, you know, and it just goes from piece to piece to piece to piece, but it's so important to make sure they understand the depths of the role. What I recommend is having a checklist where they're initialing that they've been showed that, because it does 2 things. It gives accountability for the clinic. So whoever is assigned to training that person can go in and initial and know that they've done it. They haven't missed something. We all miss things. We're humans. I miss things all the time. If I have a checklist and I'm going through and I'm making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then the person can't come back to me and say, hey, I was never shown that when they've initialed and signed off on it, right? So the accountability piece goes both ways. It's the same thing like Dani was saying about wages. Like, again, if you promise them a review in 3 months that you're going to review their wage and you don't do it, they will quit. They will quit. I know this for a fact. They will leave your clinic. So if you forget something, and it can happen innocently, it's not necessarily that you're not agreeing to something, but you can forget. We get busy. If that stuff isn't documented and isn't there, you have no protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with the checklist too, like it helps me evaluate and assess and see, okay, how quick is this new person or this new employee learning and keeping up and, you know, making sure that they're staying on track with what our expectations are too.
Well, and it's funny, we actually had an example of this at our own internal office recently. And, you know, we had a team member who was training a new team member, which was awesome. But we realized that the training was not going as well as it was supposed to, because we had, you know, these checklists in place. We were making sure that, you know, we're following this. And we realized after, you know, 2 months that they weren't getting what they needed, right? So sometimes, you know, in your clinic, you can have a superstar DA who is the most amazing assistant in the world, but they're not made to train people. Right? I'm not made to train people. I can tell you guys this for a fact. If you have ever worked with me and tried to do training with me, it is a disaster. It is not my jam. It is not my vibe. I am terrible at it. But guess what, guys? I know that, so I don't train people. I get the right people who have that right personality to train people. It's a very daunting task. And if we don't do it and we don't take responsibility as a practice owner, as a practice manager, as a senior team lead, whatever your position is in the office, how can we expect somebody to learn? And some of us just aren't meant to train people. Dani, fantastic at training people. She's got the patience, she's got the skill set, she's got the personality. So we know that. So, you know, when we work together with our consulting clients, or when we're working together with different people in the industry, we know where our strengths and weaknesses lie. And these are things that can help you structure your clinic and make your clinic stronger, but also support that new hire coming on board.
Yeah. And I would say like one of the biggest reasons why, and thank you for the compliment, Savannah, about being good at training. I think the reason I got to this point in my career for that was because of having good checklists in place. And, you know, it kept me accountable and I kept using it every single hire that I did.
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? It's important to keep consistency as well, because then, you know what, if you train somebody in your office, you get somebody new, they're trained the same way. Well, they can support each other a little bit more because there's a systematic approach. So it's like, oh, hey, you know what? This is when they showed me this. This is when they showed me that, right? And it helps us to support the new team member a little bit more because there's that same consistency all the time. It's the same systematic approach. It's the same way of doing things, right? I'll give you an example. When I was in university, one of the books I read was, it was about, it's old now, and I'll admit it, it's old, but it was about the globalization of McDonald's, okay? Why do people go to McDonald's? It's the same all the time. You know exactly what to expect. It's never different. You get a quarter pounder with cheese, you're getting a quarter pounder with cheese every single time. You're not getting a Chick-fil-A chicken burger. You're getting that, right? So people like consistency. We crave it. And the thing is, if we don't create some value of that in a dental clinic, then people feel, patients feel, team members feel, dentists, all of us feel that like strain, right? Not that everything has to be cookie cutter. Obviously, patients are going to be different. We need to do things a little bit, you know, obviously uniquely to make people feel good. But at the same time, if we have zero consistency in our clinics, we don't have a good strategy, we don't have all these systematic approaches, it's haphazard, right? It's kind of like going to a mom and pop Chinese food restaurant where you're sitting there going, is the food going to be good today? I don't know. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's not good. Depends on who's cooking, right? We have this joke in Winnipeg all the time when I'm there about a restaurant we go to. It's like, well, if Allie's not there, we're not going to eat. You know what I mean? Like, we know he makes the best food when we go there, but if we don't have that when we go there, it's like, yeah, no, we're not going to eat today. We're just going to go and hang out, right? So I think that consistency piece is huge. And I think in dental, we don't focus on it enough. We miss it, right? It's one of those things. People crave consistency. They crave, patients want that same experience every time they come in. They come in and they see Dani and they're like, oh man, you're so happy, da 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 da. And they see Dani all the time and they're like, oh man, I love that face. I love chatting with her. I want to talk about her dog Peanut. I want to, talk about this. I want to do that, right? Patients love that. If they come in one day and Dani's having a really bad day, they feel that, right? They know. So the thing is creating that consistency and creating the same way, as simple as checking your patients in, right? You ask them, hey, how are you? What's going on? And then you ask them, is your address, phone numbers, insurance the same? Making sure we follow that same process makes them feel good. The other thing about that process, if you do have someone happen to leave, the patients don't feel the gap as much because they know what to expect. It's that same expectation with no matter who you have.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And then in terms of checking in with the training and making sure your team's supported, that reminds me of, when you step into a new position anywhere, it kind of brings you back to your first day of school as a kid. And you always felt more comfortable when you had somebody there holding your hand, guiding you, showing you around. So when we all, as adults, when we jump into a new role, that memory kind of comes up again and it triggers you and you are very nervous walking into a new clinic, new position. So making sure that you're checking in with your team or the new employee. At least I would check in with my new employee at the end of every shift, for sure, in the first little bit there. But also getting feedback from the team itself who are helping with the training, making sure that, everything's going smoothly on their side of things, making sure that, they're hitting their targets and communicating why that's not where the gap is or what's working for them.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with that. You may not be the person who can check in with them every shift, okay? But pick a superstar. Your clinic guaranteed has a superstar. Even if they're not the one training them, appoint them. Give them a job. Be like, hey, and it makes them feel valued. It makes them feel very important. It's like, okay, I can't do this every day. I'm not here at the end of the shift, right? Because a lot of times what happens is we all work different hours, work different shifts. Clinics have different doctors. If you can't do it yourself, assign somebody to do it. It'll make your existing team feel good. And that's what we want, right? It's like, hey, you know what? Even your Stereotech, it doesn't matter what position they have in the office. Get them to check in with the new person. Get them to help them, right? And it gives them that boost of confidence. And those constant check-ins, I think, will allow most personalities to be able to feel more comfortable asking the questions they want to ask. Sometimes, like Dani said, it's like going back to school. You start somewhere new. It's terrifying. You don't want to ask questions. You don't want to feel incompetent. You don't want to feel like you're not smart. You don't want to feel like you're not valued right away. And that can be very scary for certain personalities. Someone like me, maybe not so scary. But, for a lot of dental assistants, a lot of hygienists, we are, naturally by trade, if anybody ever follows the DISC personalities, we're supporters and carers. We're not directors. We're not influencers. That's not why people go into dentistry. They go into dentistry because they care, right? So a lot of people in dentistry have soft personalities, which makes them good at what they do, right? It really genuinely makes people good at what they do. But the reality is, when it comes down to this kind of stuff, it also makes it more challenging for them because they don't want to bother anybody. They don't want to be an inconvenience. And they might be scared to ask those questions. So like Dani said, I feel like, just giving them that extra, little hand-holding hug at the end of the day, like not Quest Dental style where we hug each other every morning in the morning meeting, but bring them that support, however that looks and what they're looking for, I think is important. One of the things I do in every clinic I work with, I give them a template for an onboarding questionnaire. I want to know what motivates my team. I want to know what they're looking for in a clinic. I want to know what would make them feel good. So some of the questions I have on there are things like, if you could travel anywhere, where would you go? Who would you go with? Why? If we're going to do team building, what are your ideas? Right? I don't care what we do for team building. I don't care what the clinic does for team building. I'll do anything, but I want the team to feel satisfied doing it, right? And if you ask all those questions up front, you get to know that it does two things. It gives them a sense of importance that we really care about their opinion, which we do, but it also helps when it comes time to planning team building. Ask Dani, we've had some team building fails over the years where people don't show up because you think you're choosing the right thing. You can ask Dani about this. I remember I was in Vegas at a conference, actually a demo conference, and I was going down the escalator and she called me and she was almost crying. And she said to me, she goes, I planned this team building and only 4 people showed up and I don't know what to do and I'm upset and I'm mad and blah, blah, blah. And I'll never forget that moment because I felt so bad. My heart dropped. But it was a learning moment because I said to Dani, I said, look, here's the reality of it. You got to choose something that they want to do. People in their 60s don't want to do paintball. They're going to get hurt. That is why it didn't work, right? Is because it wasn't the right activity for the right group of people. So again, getting their feedback, even at the very beginning, can help, right? You know how to manage them. And when Dani was talking about checking references, that's one of the questions I ask references. I don't ask, did they show up on time? Like, I hope they showed up on time. You know what I mean? But what I'm looking for is how to manage those people. So I'm asking questions like, as their former manager, as their, supervisor, how did you find their personality was? How did you manage them when a situation was stressful? What can I do to support them as a manager or as, all those things are huge, and it can give you so much insight into making it successful for them right off the bat. So I know when we do recruitment for offices, that's one of the questions we ask, right? Like, is there something the clinic can do to support them more? Are there things that you learn that we can do to help them, right? So yeah, the other thing that's very important, guys, I don't want to miss this. My slide clicked way too fast there, but don't worry, I can remember. I'm not that old yet. Mark will tell me I'm that old, but I'm not that old yet. 3-month reviews, don't miss them, guys. I'm sure Dani can contest to that. You miss somebody's 3-month review, you crush them, you hurt their heart. People get very, very, very nervous about their job. They like security. They like that comfort. They like all those things. So make sure you get those, you get those reviews in, you make sure you give them feedback, positive, constructive, whatever it is, but give them the feedback that they need and let them review you. It is very important. Some of the biggest lessons I've learned about dentistry honestly come from the team giving me feedback. Things they don't like about the clinic. I did some 6-month check-ins with one of my clinics a while ago, a couple years ago, and I could not believe that my entire team came to me and they basically told me they hate a hygienist that worked in our clinic. I had zero clue. I didn't know there was problems. I didn't know there were issues. I had no idea that there was a major issue. And it was a quick 4-question, 6-month check-in. And they all just came to me. Obviously, I had a good relationship with the clinic, but they all came to me and told me what was going on. And I know that those experiences mean a lot to people. So the reality is at the end of the day, you want to know those things, because if that's something that's going to make the rest of your team quit, do you not want to have an intervention right away, figure out a solution? I learned this actually from Dani, which I've never done before, is I made, basically a constructive plan to try to make this performance improve. It didn't work. Dani, I don't know if you've ever had one work, but we want to give people a chance, right? We want to give them the opportunity to improve. We want to make sure we're supporting them as much as we can. Our CEO, Alex, actually teaches me a lot about that all the time. I'm like, if it's not working, it's not working. And he's like, Savannah, we got to be more sensitive. We got to, so we learn from each other all the time. But I think giving people those opportunities, learning from your own team, learning from different people, I think it's worth that shot. And, making sure that we're doing our due diligence on that side is very important. And I know we get busy. I know what a dental clinic is like. I'm in them still 3 days a week, guys. I get it, but these things are so important. I'll let Dani talk about positive affirmation because I'm terrible at it, but I try really hard to be better.
Positive affirmation, again, this kind of also sort of circles back to what Savannah said, when you're asking questions, doing reference checks, when you're onboarding them, or even when you're doing, their review. I always get people to do a little bit of a peer review or their self review too. And then from there, you can kind of get familiarized with how do they like to be communicated to? Do they want to be pat on the back after the end of every shift or things like that? But it's really just as simple sometimes as even bringing in some coffee and donuts for the team and just saying like, hey, I know it's been a really tough week. Our sterilizer broke or there was a flood in the office, but thank you guys so much for sticking it out and being supportive and, managing the patients and all the expectations that come with that, while we navigated this really busy week. In terms of like constructive criticism, again, it's all about how you're wording and what the situation really is. And I've had people on performance reviews or performance improvement plans, and I've had it work where they've pulled their socks up and worked on the areas where they needed that extra, sparkle or help or whatever. But, then it's been times where it falls flat and the person is not able to step it up. And unfortunately, yeah, you have to be a little bit of a critic and, just be honest with them. Honestly, I think honesty is always the best policy when it comes to communicating with your staff about their performance and ways they can improve and also what they're really excelling on. I'm not sure what else. Like, it really just get to know your team, I guess, is the biggest thing, and know what works for them and how they like to receive feedback.
Yeah, totally. Or sometimes you don't know, you just try something.
Yeah.
We were at a conference and I had these gold teeth stickers in my pocket and I came home with them just because I stuck them in my pocket. I was handing them out to people when I was talking, whatever. People love them. They're very cute. So I had them in my pocket. I got home and I was at one of my offices and I was like, you know what? I got to do something with these. So I just put sticky notes on everybody's ops, on their computers, in their office, and just wrote like little notes. Like some of them were pretty funny. I have an associate who's hilarious. And I was like, one of them was just like, you're cooler than Kendrick Lamar. And he was like, it's still on his computer. You know what I mean? They loved it. And it's something that costs absolutely nothing, right, guys? So anything you can do, it doesn't have to cost you a lot. You don't have to do something crazy. Sometimes it's just the little things that really count, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've worked at a couple offices where obviously the team, we were really food motivated. So that went a long way when they would give us treats. Other people, they just wanted to do something fun as a group, even after work, or stick around after hours and just catch up, hang out, chit chat. Things like that.
Every clinic's different. So yeah, it is what it is sometimes. But I will tell you guys this, and I know this for a fact. The number one reason people quit their jobs in dentistry is because clinics are not organized. And I am maybe a little overboard sometimes with my organizational skills, but what I do know is my teams don't leave. It's very rare that I am replacing somebody in any of the dental clinics I work with. We don't want people leaving. It's expensive. It's stressful. There's so many things. It's just not fun. When you have good people, it's so important to retain them. And I know we can't talk more and more and more about checklists, but we're going to, because it's just so important. Having team members, they want organization. We are an organized field. We are all OCD in dental. There's very few people that work in dental that don't have OCD. We like things to be clean. We like things to be organized. I find that people who don't stick around. They don't make it in the industry forever, right? So we like that. We want to feel welcome. We want to have a clear understanding of what we're supposed to be doing. I don't know, like Dani said, do you want to go to school day one and not know which classroom you go to? Right? Do you not imagine, and I've seen this, guys, I've seen it in clinics. I've seen it happen. I was consulting with one clinic and they hired somebody new. She seemed very sweet, came in. I don't think they did a great job of onboarding her. Again, I was kind of just observing that day. I was working on something else, dealing with something else. And she said she was going for lunch. She just never came back. We don't know what happened to her. Just never came back, didn't answer any texts, didn't answer any calls. We could never find her again.
Yeah, that's happened a few times. I've heard that similar story across multiple clinics, rural, urban. Sometimes people just, they walk out.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And again, I feel like, interviewing is like dating, right? It's you kind of, that first date is usually pretty good unless there's something really wrong and it's a big mismatch, but it's kind of like dating. It's very sweet at the beginning, but once you get to know the person, does it mean that it's going to work? Not necessarily, right? But again, the interview process is important, hiring is important, following the process when you're hiring is important. But once you get them on board, having these systematic approaches that make people feel good and know their expectations will keep them. I know this. It will keep them. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they have a purpose. They know the goals. They know the expectations. If they can't meet them, they will leave on their own.
Yeah, one of the biggest questions I'm asking when I'm hiring for clinics is when I ask the candidates, what's prompting you to look for employment elsewhere, or why are you not happy with your current position, whatever the case may be. And I would say majority of the time it's because it's unorganized. Their hours are being cut. There's conflict within the team. All that stuff really does stem down or falls back to how organized the clinic is.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, again, the industry's got its shortcomings. It's got some very good things, but it's also got its shortcomings. And, just because an office manager is an office manager doesn't mean they're actually an office manager, is how I would explain it, right? If you've been a receptionist who's been there the longest and you get promoted, it doesn't mean you have the HR skills to be able to do all this stuff, right? Guys, I highly encourage you, drop it in the chat. If you guys want some of our templates, I'll send them to you. I'll send you the training checklist. I will send you the job offer. I will send you templates that you guys can use and implement in your own offices, but please do. If you don't have the resources, you don't have the experience, you don't have the tools, let us know. That's what we're here for. We will help you. We want to see clinics be successful. We want to see the hires stay on board. We want people to stay in dentistry. I don't know how many times I see, especially on Facebook groups where there's dental assistants talking. I see it amplified in the US. I see it becoming more amplified in certain areas of Canada where they are literally hating this profession. And it breaks my heart because there's no reason, right? There's no reason somebody should hate their job unless obviously they go into the wrong field or like those kind of things are going to happen. But to the point where you see a whole community, talking negatively, it's very discouraging, right? So we want to make an impact. We want to make a difference. We want to streamline these things to make it better for clinics, to make it better for team members, to make it better for our industry as a whole, right? So again, I encourage you guys, create a training program. If you're not sure how, reach out to me, reach out to Dani. You can message either of us. We'll give you our contact information at the end, but create a training program. If you're not sure how, we'll give you some guidance. We'll give you some examples. You can use ChatGPT. It'll help you. You can use any of the resources out there. There's a lot of things that you can do, but create something that works for your clinic. Every clinic's going to be different. Every clinic I work with, we adapt this to what works for their team. We adapt this to what works for, their style, right? Every dentist is different. Every manager is different. Every clinic is different. Patients are different. Demographics are different, rural, urban, like the list goes on and on and on. But whatever works for you, having something in place, I promise will make your clinic better. I like a system for every single thing in a clinic, but this is a great place to start because if you can get this going, you can get things kind of on the way, then it's easy to build on that foundation, right? It's like building a house. You can't build a house without a foundation. This is the foundation. It's getting these processes in place. It's getting these things organized. It's really just getting there for people to make them feel good and supported, right? If we can't do that, we're going to keep having new people coming through the door and it's just not going to be good. It hurts that patient experience. And that's the number one thing we're looking for is a good patient experience. And if we can't do that, then why are we here?
Totally.
Yeah. I wrote this point down because I wanted everybody to see this. Just because you're an RDA does not mean you are trained. Okay. There are extremes of clinics out there, guys. If you've worked in one clinic for 15 years, you're probably a superstar in that clinic. Absolutely. It means you're a great dental assistant. There's no question. But if you've worked in a clinic with film x-rays, paper charts, you've worked with one dentist your entire career, you have one way of working, which isn't a bad thing at all. You have that foundation. But if you go to a new digital clinic that's 3D printing, that is milling their own same day crowns, that's using iTero for everything, that is using isolate versus rubber dams, that is using all this new technology that you've never been exposed to, you need to be trained. Okay. Do you need to be trained on how to set up a root canal? Probably not. I mean, that fundamental is kind of the same no matter where you go, but all these new advances in dentistry have changed the world. So yes, maybe some clinics are very similar and you find a clinic that it works and you can just hop over there and it's not a big deal. But most of the time it's going to be different. Even the ways of using some of this technology are different, right? You know, you can use iTero in your clinic. That's fantastic. But are you sending it to a lab? Are you sending it to Invisalign? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Like the ways that you can store information, the ways you keep information, the ways that clinics have that set is very important. You don't want to get sued. You don't want people's information going the wrong places. You don't want to be sending out random things, right? If you don't have a PIA and you're not following your PIA in your clinics, you're going to have a problem, right? So knowing all those little things, sure, it doesn't seem like much, but sending information, there's, you know, it's very important. You don't want to be getting sued. You don't want to be doing the wrong thing. You don't want to get yourself into trouble over something that's so simple, right? And if you just showed the team off the very beginning, it wouldn't happen. And most mistakes that happen in clinics aren't malicious. Ask Dani, they're not malicious. People do not do it on purpose, but it happens.
Yeah, totally. And it just takes one time, you know, to make that kind of mistake where it can snowball. But, you know, again, yeah, it just all comes back to proper training and making sure that your staff is fully aware of how things are done at your office. You know, they might have, like you said, familiarity with iTero, but again, every team, every clinic might utilize it in a different way.
Oh, absolutely. Like my favorite is PMS. So I talk about PMS all the time because we happen to have a PMS software. So that makes it easy for me to chat about. But PMS, we always joke, and it's the truth though. I joke about it and I make like jokes about it, but I'll ask people, what's your favorite PMS, right? Like, what's your favorite practice management software? I get a variety of answers. I'll get ClearDent, I'll get Dentrix, I'll get MaxDent, I'll get all kinds of answers. And I go, why? So like, I don't know, I just like it. Okay. There's never really a clear answer. There's never really a reason. I'm like, okay. But what we've come to realize being in the software business is that people like the one they know the most. The one that they're most comfortable with is the one they like best. And I mean, that's obvious. The car that you probably like the most is the one you drive, right? Because you know how it drives. You know how to adjust the seats. You know how comfortable it is, right? So it's the exact same thing. People are comfortable with what they know the best. It doesn't mean it's the best. It doesn't mean it's the worst. It just means that you're picking the one that you're most comfortable with, right? Software is completely underutilized in almost every single dental clinic. I would say actually every single clinic. There is nobody that uses every feature. It's just not, right? So again, if you're in a clinic that utilizes 50% of the features, you go to a clinic that uses 80% of the features, that's a learning curve. That is a change, right? That is something new. So regardless of how well you know something or you think you know something, you don't know what you don't know. And that's what I tell people. And I don't know what I don't know. I learn something from our team every day. You know what I mean? I talk about something, I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Oh, man, that was a good idea. Okay, yeah, we should have done this sooner. Okay, this worked. Okay, how should we improve that, right? If we're not continuously looking at ourselves, we're never going to grow either, right? But again, starting from somewhere, we have to have this documentation and this baseline of where we're at, right? If we don't have that, there's no starting point.
Yeah, that's why office manuals and things like that are so key.
Yeah, it's a starting point, right? And you can always change them. They're dynamic. Your clinic's going to grow. Things are going to change. You're going to hire more people. You're going to have different patients. You're going to be bringing on more patients. You're going to have all these things that happen over the years. But again, updating this stuff also is just as important. So reviewing it, right? Making sure that we're constantly on it. Because then let's say we don't hire somebody for 5 years and we got to bring somebody new on board. Well, what's changed in that 5 years? Is this updated in our protocols? Do we have the right process in place? Are we going to be training them on what we're currently doing or what we did 5 years ago, right? And that becomes a bit of a dilemma for people too, because again, at the end of the day, we can have all these processes, but if we're not updating and evolving the way the clinic is evolving and updating our processes, then we're back in that same boat where we're training people on old material, which again is not necessarily the best way to go about it either, right? So reviewing this stuff is important. What I recommend to clinics all the time is put in your calendar, look at it once a year, pull out your office manual. There's many manuals that you can have. I recommend many to offices, which most people know, but I recommend an employee policy handbook. I feel like that's very important to go over your office policies. That's your smoking, your on time, your holiday pay, all those kind of things. So I think that's very important that you have all those things documented, because then somebody can't come to you and go, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know we don't have this in place. I didn't know that this was part of my duty. I didn't know that I can't give my key to my cousin who came in the office in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? I've heard it. I actually was at a clinic. I have. And you know what? I was at a clinic recently, and the owner was telling me that one of the staff was fighting with her husband and was going into the clinic on the weekends and sleeping there.
Yeah. You literally hear it.
Yeah, you literally hear of weird things going on, but the reality is, at the end of the day, are you okay with that? If you are, and you're okay with anything happening in your clinic, okay, go for it. If you're not, and you want some stability and you want things to be a little more organized, then you have to have it documented. Because at the end of the day, it's he said, she said, she said, she said, whatever it is. If you have that documentation in place, your new employees signed it, they reviewed it, they understand it, then you don't have these problems. Right?
Yeah, I ran into a situation one time when I was managing an office, and an employee that unfortunately had left our practice on not so great of terms was still good friends with somebody that was currently employed there. And when I wasn't in the clinic, nor was the owner in the clinic, this former employee came in. I don't know how long they were in there for, but at my office, I did not want former employees in the clinic when I'm not there. So I had to put that updated in my manual so everybody was on the same page. And, there was no, oh, I wasn't aware, or, oh, I didn't know. Like, if you needed to, So that was an example kind of the situation that I ran into. And that's good to keep your manuals up to date. Have your team review them every 3 to 6 months, 12 months, things like that. Yeah.
I'm a little harder than Dani when it comes to policy, but I had a clinic where I went in one day and I had someone wearing sweatpants at the front desk. And I was like, this is not happening. Sent them home. I was like, you go home and change, and you come back when you're ready to work.
Or a football jersey.
Yeah, I had a football jersey. Dani knows all my stories. I've had it all happen. And I send them home and I go, look, when you're ready to wear proper work attire and you're ready to be at the office, you want to be a professional, you want to be presentable, you let me know. Okay. Mm-hmm. You go home. You're not being paid, because at the end of the day, you have to follow the policies in place. But if you don't have this documented, you can't actually do that. You cannot send somebody home and go, this is my expectation, when they don't know what the expectations are, right? So I think it's just clarity from both sides. It gives them the expectation of knowing what they should be wearing at work. Is it scrubs? Is it business casual? Is it okay to wear a hockey jersey on a game day? Some clinics it absolutely is, and it's not a big deal. Some clinics it's not, right? People don't know what they don't know. So again, being very clear, having that documentation, it backs you up as a responsible owner, but it also, gives your employees clarity, which makes them feel like there is that organization, there is that understanding, there are all those things in place that they're looking for. And I promise you guys, this is what people are looking for. It's why they go into dentistry. They care. They want to be organized. They're OCD. We're all crazy. I get this. So it's important, right? I also encourage, when we're training, onboarding, even down the road, when people have been with you for 5 years, check in with them. Okay. I highly suggest twice a year doing check-ins. Yearly reviews, mandatory. Guys, don't skip them. Even I don't correlate them with raises. I don't believe in it. I highly don't believe in it. I believe in compensating people for when they're doing a good job. I believe in compensating people based on inflation. I believe in compensating people based on situations. I want to make sure everybody in clinics are well taken care of. Everybody works very hard. We want to make sure our industry, our team members are well taken care of. We want to make sure that they're getting what they need. But I don't think having reviews tied to compensation is always the best boat. And the reason is because they're not thinking about the feedback. They're not thinking about the reviews. They're not thinking about that. All they're thinking about is if I'm going to get a raise. And like Dani said, having them do a self-evaluation, it's huge. I'm sure you've got so much information from people by doing that.
Yeah. Also, I had the team do like anonymous, but peer reviews. And it was something that we had discussed with that with the individuals when it was time for their review. I think it's important for the team to know what their teammates are thinking and feeling and saying about them. Yeah. Obviously, you want to make sure that it is anonymous and you don't create more conflict, but
yeah. And one of the things I've had on reviews before, and I do like a formal year-long review where I do a longer one where I get a lot of feedback, and I talk about goals. I talk about ways that the practice can help them to get their goals, how to support them with education, how to get people to where they want to be. So that's a lot of my 1 year. But I always love to do a 6-month check-in, and 6-month check-ins I make really easy. So I make it 4 questions. No one has to write anything down. No one has to think about it, but I give them 4 easy questions. And every year I suggest changing those questions, making them something a little bit different. But one of the questions I asked a clinic one time where I had a manager there, and I was just curious to see how this would all work with her being in charge. And I said, put on there, who's your favorite team member and why? Okay. And I'm not joking, a staff of 16 people all wrote down the exact same person. Exact same person. I did not picture that to happen. I had team members who were kind of friends with each other, etc. I did not expect that to happen. So at the end of the day, all those things are important. Keeping your dental team is just so important, guys. Doing all these things like we've talked about, team reviews, so important. Team meetings, we didn't talk about, but I'm a huge fan. Yeah. Obviously, I believe in once a month. I block 2 hours. That's what I tell my clinics to do. We go over everything. And it's not necessarily negative or things we need to improve on. It's also positive. Hey, we did so great with Google reviews this month. Or, hey, guys, this was a moment that was awesome. Sometimes I recommend doing fun things. Magic Thursday, one of my favorites. My clinics do this. They all do Magic Thursday. So every time the team meetings are on a Thursday, someone does a magic trick. And it is mind-blowingly fun. Mind-blowing fun. I am always amazed at the magic, but just ideas. But you can make those meetings how it works for your clinic, what they need for support, right? But make them fun and people want to go. Bigger clinics, I recommend department meetings. I think that's a huge help. Hygiene meetings, assistant meetings, admin meetings, because no one wants to sit and talk about admin in a giant meeting if they're not admin. They just don't care. Hygienists don't care about admin stuff for the most part, right? And vice versa. So having those department meetings gets you into more detail. It gets you into more specific things that are more prevalent to them. I always say, listen to your team. I never say no without a reason. I always have a reason if I say no to something. And that's the best piece of advice I can give everybody today. Being empathetic, trying to understand people. Sure, there's moments where you want to say you're an idiot, but don't. Feel them out, make sure you really listen, make sure you try to understand where they're coming from. Sometimes I've had those moments, I sit back, I think about it. I can't give them an answer on the spot. So I go back and I try to figure out where they're coming from, right? And these are all just suggestions, guys. Again, your clinics are all going to be different. You're going to have different views, different things that are important to you, but they're all just things I've seen work in clinics, right? CE, encourage education. Obviously, the more we know, the better off we are, right? Little things count. Like I said, the sticky notes with the teeth on them, hilarious. Everybody loved them. You don't have to do big things to make people feel good. Little things count more.
Seen, right? Just little things.
Yeah, absolutely. Celebrate wins. Don't always talk about negative things. Extra efforts. I know Dani's famous for this. When people would stay late, she'd get them a gift card. $10 to Starbucks. That was her jam. She'll do it for people all the time, but they stayed late. It's not their duty to stay late. We don't expect them to do that. So give them something. Just say thank you. Appreciate them, because they'll be more motivated to do it again. They'll understand, that you appreciate that fact. They'll want to work with you.
Yeah. Or even just saying like, hey, thanks for staying late last night. The schedule's pretty light today, or it looks a little light on Friday, or maybe we can figure out a way to get you out a few minutes early so you can enjoy your weekend. Like anything, like as long as they're feeling, seen and, you're acknowledging them and acknowledging their efforts, it goes such a long way.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, listening to ideas, supporting their ideas, encouraging them to bring ideas. Arsh asked me for an office dog at least once every 2 months. It is a hard no. We're not getting a dog in our office. But that being said, I never have said 100% no to this dog idea. is very hard to have a dog in an office. But you know what? I'm always open to the idea, because if something comes along that's going to make sense, it's going to motivate everybody and somehow work, I'm open to the idea, right? So I joke about this stuff, but honestly, listen to your team. Sometimes their ideas are fantastic, and there's just these little things that you can implement, like heated blankets, like sleep, stress balls, whatever the case is. Those things make a difference for patients, and the team knows your patients the best. Listen to them. Dani loves team building, so she can tell you all about the different things she's done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's, having some fun together outside the office is huge.
Yeah, like we would do, and I never forced everybody to show up. I would send out a little poll, see if there's a specific day that works better for the majority. And, you can give them options or just plan something. Like a few times I've taken we've just done a barbecue and beach day at one of the, inner city communities that have lakes, hiking trips, even just going for a quick bite to eat, a dinner. Like a lot of that stuff is pretty easy to plan, and you'd be surprised how many people actually show up too. I mean, in the past, when you organize things that, like Savannah said, like paintballing, yeah, there was some 60 or more adults that weren't wanting to join that. But for the younger staff, they loved it, and it was so much fun. Like we had a blast, and people were talking about it for months later. But get innovative, do like an escape room or something like that. Like there's lots of fun things out there that can really bring the team together.
Yeah, ask them what they want to do. That's the most important thing.
Put it on their plate.
Yeah, exactly.
Or have somebody from the team organize it. That helps too. Gets the whole team involved.
Totally. Absolutely. I agree with that. Guys, we're not going to keep you overtime because it's already getting late. So I just want to share this slide of information. Obviously, you guys can go to our website, track us down. Almost everybody has my cell number, so I've just posted it yet again. You guys can text me. People text me all the time, random stuff. So I don't mind answering questions. If anybody wants any templates, you guys need any advice on how to start this process in your clinic, how to improve things, what little things will make the biggest difference, send us an email. You can reach out to me or Dani. Either of us are always happy to help and offer any information that we can. Obviously, our website has more information. If you guys are in Calgary, I do glasses of wine with people, no problem. I travel a lot too, so you can check me out in your city. I do all the major conferences, so I'm generally around quite often. So if you guys ever want to meet in person, we can swing that. I'm happy to do that as well. So
yeah, Savannah and I will be at PDC, so you guys can come by the booth and say hi, and yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. I don't see any questions popping up, but if anybody has anything, now is your chance. Oh, there's one. Okay, let me pull it up. I would love the templates. You got it. I will I'll get you to just send me a quick note, Sherry, and I'll make sure I get everything out to you, okay? So just send me a quick note after, just text me or send me a quick email, and then I'll make sure I get that to you. And anybody else who wants that, it's no problem. We'll just send it out to you guys. It'll give you a good start on what to look at. And again, you can customize them yourselves. You're going to change it. Obviously, every clinic is different, but it'll give people a good baseline. So anybody else that wants that too, please let me know, okay? Or Dani. You can pick either of us. Whoever you think has better hair today, which is definitely Dani. So
I was going to say, I think yours looks great.
Okay, cool. Last chance for questions. Okay, nothing's coming through. It's a good day when nobody's asking questions. But on that note too, guys, if anybody's looking for CE, you can also send a note into us. We will get CE points out after. If anybody's looking to connect later, we send our information. Again, you go to the website, you'll be able to track us down anytime. Other than that, I want to wish everybody an amazing March. I can't believe it is almost March. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody at conferences. I have a lot of speaking engagements across the country, so come and see me, even if you don't want to watch me speak and go through this again. Come and say hi, and we'll connect and go from there.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody.
Okay, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.